The first time I saw him, I thought that man could buy this entire hotel and still have change for dessert. It was late evening in the marble lobby of the Azure Crown in Doha, all chandeliers and polished brass, the kind of place where I was usually invisible, a junior interpreter shuffling paperwork between conferences, smiling politely at people who never learned my name. But that night, something felt off. The air vents were spitting out a faint haze, the kind you'd mistake for bad air conditioning unless you'd grown up listening to your grandmother's war stories about smoke drifting in before the sirens ever sounded. I was supposed to be heading home, arms full of translation documents, when I saw him, Khalid Rami, storming past the concierge looking like the last person you'd want to argue with. His tailored jacket was rumpled, his tie loose, his phone still in his hand from what must have been one hell of a fight. I heard him say in perfect English, "The deal's dead. We leave tonight." I should have minded my own business. Should have gone home to my tiny apartment where my grandmother would be waiting with mint tea. But then, from behind a marble pillar, I caught the sound of two men talking in rapid Arabic near the service elevator, fast clip the way you speak when you don't want the wrong ears listening. The fire starts in 10 minutes. Sprinklers and alarms are off. He'll be trapped in the suite. They thought nobody here understood them. But my grandmother made sure I grew up fluent. I froze, heart pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear. They were talking about the penthouse floor about him. Everyone knew Khalid Rami never stayed anywhere else. I could have pretended I heard nothing. Could have gone home, read about it in the morning news. But I couldn't shake the image of smoke filling a sealed-off floor, someone banging on a locked door 42 stories up. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head. "If you can save a life and don't, you've taken it yourself." By the time I snapped out of it, he was stepping into a private elevator. I sprinted, threw myself between the closing doors. He glared down at me like I'd just dented his car. "I'm not interested in surveys or upgrades," he said. "Someone's going to set your room on fire," I blurted in flawless Arabic. That got his attention. His hand slammed the emergency stop, jolting us to a halt between floors. "Repeat that," he said, his voice low and sharp. I did steady this time. He studied my face like he was weighing the odds I was lying. Then he grabbed his phone, barking orders in Arabic security sweeps, evacuation protocols. By the time we made it to the service level, I could smell the smoke. He took my hand without asking and said, "This way." His palm was warm, steady, the only thing that kept me moving as alarms finally began blaring on the wrong floors. We burst into the garage where his driver was waiting beside a sleek black sedan. The driver's eyes went wide when he saw us come from the service stairs. "Sir, fire's on the penthouse floor. They're saying it started in your suite." I thought that would be the end. I'd go home, he'd go wherever billionaires go. But in the car, his voice shifted. "You saved my life. In my culture, that means I owe you one I can never repay." I told him he didn't owe me a thing. He just shook his head and said, "You risked yourself for a stranger. That's not nothing." 2 hours later, I was inside his walled estate, armed guards at the gate's white stone villa glowing under desert stars. He insisted it wasn't safe for me to go home. And before I could argue, he offered me a job, personal interpreter partner in negotiations, someone he could actually trust. I should have said no. Should have gone back to my normal life translating at hotel banquets. But I said yes, with conditions. My grandmother stayed in her own apartment with medical care brought to her. I had a say in anything that affected me. And when this danger passed, I could walk away. We started working together the next day. And you know what? We made a damn good team. My cultural knowledge smoothed deals before they hit snags, and his trust in me grew fast. Somewhere in there, the cold, furious man from the elevator started making me tea during late-night strategy sessions, remembering exactly how I took it. But danger doesn't dissolve just because you land a contract. His enemy, an ex-business partner named Samir Kadim, hadn't forgiven Khalid for his brother's death in a mess of embezzlement and gambling debts. The man fled to Europe but still had people watching me, even my grandmother. One afternoon, an envelope slid under my door. Inside, a photo of me and Khalid in the hotel lobby before the fire, time-stamped hours earlier than I remembered, plus a note in Arabic. He knew. Ask him why his luggage was packed. It was a perfect seed of doubt, and Samir knew exactly how to plant it. I confronted Khalid. The hurt in his eyes looked real, but part of me wondered if that was just skill. Then he showed me everything: his real books, the files on the failed projects, even a recording proving Samir had twisted the story of his brother's last call. That's when the plan flipped. Instead of running from Samir's traps, we'd set one. Samir wanted me to plant a listening device in Khalid's office, promised me $500,000 for it. We decided to let him think I had. In reality, the bug would feed him staged conversations while recording every threat and lie he spilled to me. The meet was in a crowded cafe in Old Doha. I wore dark clothes, carried a recorder in my purse, and tried not to think about how fast this could go wrong. Samir walked in like any other man, sunglasses, casual jacket, the kind of smile that hides a knife. "Miss Kareem," he said, sitting across from me. "The device works beautifully. I've already heard talk of offshore accounts." I leaned in, feigning curiosity. "And the rest? The evidence you promised?" He bit. "Bribery, tax fraud, arson." He laid it out like a man reading his resume. "Then the hook. With your testimony, we can finish him for good." Every word went into the recorder. When he left, my hands were shaking so bad I had to hold my tea with both. The next morning, Samir was in Swiss custody on an international warrant. The threat that had shadowed every step for weeks was finally gone. And that's when Khalid did the most dangerous thing of all. He knelt beside the fountain in his garden, held out a ring, and asked me to marry him. We kept the wedding small: Lebanese food, Emirati music, just family and close friends under a desert sunset. My grandmother walked me down the aisle, whispering, "Your parents would be proud." For a while, life was easy. Work trips to Morocco, Egypt. Jordan deals, closed dinners, shared laughter over hotel breakfasts. 6 months later, news came that Samir had been convicted on all counts. 15 years, no parole for 10. 1 year to the day from the night in the elevator, I stood on our balcony, looking out at the skyline, thinking about how it all began. "Any regrets?" Khalid asked. "Only that it took a fire to meet you," I said. "But maybe that's the only way we'd have known what we were made of." He smiled. "So, what's next?" And here's the thing, we don't know. Life's not some neat story where the credits roll after the kiss. There are still risks, still people out there who'd like to see him fall. Maybe me too. But we've learned something important. Fear can't make our choices for us. Now, I want to ask you, if you overheard a plan to kill someone you barely knew, would you step in, or would you walk away and tell yourself it wasn't your problem? And if you did step in, would you still trust them when the lies started to sound just as convincing as the truth? Tell me in the comments, because I think this is where the real debate begins.